It's Messy Saturday Hair Day. I know it's one of my favorite things. The weather is fantastically warm, but at the same time, the curly hair goes up poof, and there's nothing you can do about it. But at anyway, hello, kids. Welcome to the Capital Life Podcast. I am your host, Abby Pagood. This is where we talk about all the things. We talk about the good, we talk about the bad, and we talk about the healthy. And today's subject is perception. Perception. We're going to go over how we get our preconceived notions. We are going to talk about what we do after we get them. And we are going to talk about how we kind of get rid of them all after they no longer even work. Okay? So let's talk about a little bit about what's coming our fun way. We actually have the Capital Life Shop. The Capital Life Shop has tons of t-shirts, oils, fun things to help you. But in addition, it also has focus programs. Like I've told you guys before, focus programs are programs to help you get fit in target areas, whether it's rehab or just adding some finer assets. But if you use the Capital Life code, you will get $15 off any focus program. So by all means, jump on capitalhealth.com and check it out. We also need to do a huge shout out to our Capital Partner of the Month, which is Be Zen Holistic Wellness Center. These girls are amazing. They help get your Zen back on so that you can stay balanced and function through your day. Now, we are going to, don't mind my dogs, they clearly found something to bark at. So, it happens. Life. Let's start talking about different perceptions. How do perceptions really start? A lot of times we think that, we are raised a certain way, and so therefore we get these ideas and we perceive things, etc. And that is a contributing factor. But what we don't realize is that our perceptions really start when we're young, like we're talking at birth. Okay. So if you can think about children that are born, they're usually just this innocent, pure, beautiful essence of just awesomeness. Like they just come fresh out of the pot and they're so excited and they're just searching around and they don't really know anything. They're kind of like they just got thrown into this world. And my favorite expression is Friends, where after is it Phoebe or Rachel that ends up having her babies, and then the thing that she says is she's like, it's like a draft just came into the room or something like that. Or there's a comment that is like, it's so bizarre, it's strange that like it's just this person was in here 1 minute and now all of a sudden that it is. But what ends up happening is a baby's response to its mother and to its surroundings really does start the perception concept going. So if a baby smiles and they get positive reaction, or even if it cries, it actually starts to play around and starts getting these preconceived notions of how to behave or how to be or how to act. And so that ends up creating not just an internal influence or perception per se, but also an external influence, right? So we have in infancy and then growing up, we have not only our family and friends' expectations, but we also have our reactions to these things, okay? So a lot of times it's the internal and the external influence, the internal from within us and how we see someone's reactions or see how someone reacts to something that really kind of creates some of our concepts to which we create for ourselves and how we think we should be living. Now, a lot of times what we learn, we learn from these experiences. I might be able to see, let's say I watched my aunt take a sip of coffee and it was too hot, but she made a funny face that it like as if it tasted bad. I could see that and almost think that maybe coffee is bad for you, or it tastes bitter, or it tastes a certain way. Okay. And then that's something where I witnessed her action, her reaction to something, which I don't know what's going on inside of her head. So I don't know what she's actually thinking, but I responded to her external reaction, which then gave me a preconceived notion that coffee is bad. So there's all of these different dynamics on how we witness things, how we perceive things. And if people aren't openly expressing themselves or talking about what their thoughts and feelings are on a regular, it becomes very easy for us to have a perception that is a little bit off or different. And that can eventually influence us in our decisions. So I really think it's important for us to kind of go through how just a tiny little bit of why that is the way that it is and how early it starts, because it does happen so early in life, especially when we are children. Now, the other thing is we need to talk about how in our perceptions, we kind of have a tendency to pay attention to people in different ways. There's two different ways that we're paying attention to people. There's the physical component, and there's also the emotional, behavioral interaction with a person. So really the essence of who the person actually is. So you could have, on one hand, you could have a physical, see someone outside, see how they're dressed, see how they might be expressing themselves, see how they carry themselves. If you see somebody walking down a hallway and they're very sluggish, you might think that they're very shy, or they might just be self-conscious or something of that nature, instead of thinking, hey, they just may not have gotten enough sleep for the day and they're exhausted, right? So it's that physical judgment, that physical evaluation that we do upon someone that creates our perception and might influence it in a different way. So it goes back to that don't judge a book by its cover type of thing, right? So you could have someone that dresses very rugged, but they might be dressing very rugged because in their mind, maybe that ruggedness protects them from socializing, because there might be someone that's high anxiety, or they don't like discussing things with a lot of people. And so therefore they dress a little bit more rugged and, I don't know, I would call it kind of like spiky, so that the people that may not be less likely to approach them to have a conversation with them. So you also have the part where it's the emotional and the essence of the person. And this is where it's the most important. When we have perceptions of people, it's really the connectivity that we have with people, which should be the real essence of where our perceptions come from. Who the person is emotionally, what are their belief systems on morals and values? How do they treat individuals? What are behaviors that they pride themselves in doing? What are some of the behaviors that they would like not to be, or they choose not to be involved with? That's really the kind of connection that we need to be starting to experience. And what's interesting is regardless of what someone looks like on the exterior, or what they might be, what you might be perceiving them to be, that can be a huge influential factor in your interactions with them, because you might have that. And we're not going to call it judgment, because judgment is just too much of a negative connotation to it. So we're going to look at it as more perception. You have this perception of them that it could be false or it could be true. And then once you cross the barrier to try and get to know this individual, then you can actually evaluate to see what are they really like, right? So kind of like right now, people could, I don't know, perceive that I have the most awesome hair ever because it's always got its curl and its fluff and whatever. They perceive that I have very fun hair that can pretty much just do what it wants. But in all actuality, majority of the time, people are just witnessing my bedhead, because my curl just kind of flops around and goes and is just kind of messy. So when people think, oh wow, that looks so nice, which really most of the time my hairstyle is bedhead. Even right now, I put a little bit of water in it, kind of fluffed it up and called it a day. So I am very fortunate in that aspect, but I would not want people to perceive that I am some fancy pants that had to do all the coiffing and prettying up to do all of those things. So the primary point that I want to make today is that there's so much judgment in this world right now. The last thing that we need is more judgment. And that's why I want to really focus on perceptions and why they're so important, and how our preconceived notions can really influential us in how we act and behave. And so we need to take a step back. We need to get to know those around us and maybe not allow some of that exterior influences, or maybe some things that we've heard, because one person's experience with an individual may not be what someone else will experience, okay? Because we're all different. So I encourage all of you to try and get to know somebody that's a little bit more out of the box that you would normally talk to. Okay. Like sometimes it's even teenagers. I don't know what it is about teenagers, but they kind of get a bad rap half the time, and half the time they're not really doing anything bad. They're just kind of in their own world and they're just minding their own business. And so, sometimes you see a kid walking down the street, or a cluster of them, and you think, oh, what are they up to? Like as if everything that teenagers do is up to no good, when really they're just enjoying their time with their friends and socializing, and half of them haven't even figured out who they are yet. So it's really important to take the time to get to know people where they are at that place and time in their life, especially when they're in very impactful moments. Because if you don't take the time to even just say hello in a nice way, they might begin to become more rigid and opinionated about other people and have the judgment that we're trying to avoid in this world. So it doesn't matter if this person, let's say you are very ambitious and you decide to go out and you meet someone and you try to get to know them a little bit, and you find out they're just not your cup of tea. That's perfectly fine. You made the effort to get to know the person. You decided, hey, you know what? They might be okay, but they just don't align with me and who I am. That's okay. You gave them the time. You at least know what they're about. And then the world is large enough for us all. The problem is that we keep thinking that it's all about us, and it never was. It's about all of us as a whole, as a collective, working together. So this is the time where we really need to rid ourselves of the things that are no longer serving us. We need to, and one of those things is our preconceived notions, our perceptions of things. So things from your childhood that don't longer fit in, like my aunt taking a sip of coffee, which, by the way, that's really kind of made up, because my aunt actually drinks her coffee with the cream and sugar, and so it always looks super, super delicious, which I do have a theory that some people actually might, like, correct me if I'm wrong, or at least comment below and tell me, because I think that some people will drink their coffee similarly to the people they witnessed drinking coffee the first time around, right? Like, kind of like if someone had an alcoholic beverage, who they kind of had that first interaction with, or who they like kind of really liked and kind of looked up to, and then they witnessed them and it's like, oh, they like vodka tonics, so I'll probably like vodka tonics too. By the way, I cannot stand vodka tonics, even though they were my grandfather's and my whole family's thing. I can't stand it. It's disgusting. Just, that's my personal opinion. But that's my point, is let's go into these preconceived notions of even things from when we were little, because how they shape and influence us makes a difference in our external behavior towards others. And it also profoundly changes how we interact with ourselves. Okay. So this is talking about all of those types of expectations. When we're raised as little youngins, right? We are raised with these standards or obligations or expectations that sometimes might be a little bit too overwhelming, or they might be completely appropriate and they're for our well-being, and we may not understand them exactly, but we go through the motions. And sometimes our internal reaction to the expectations of our family can influence how we react. Some people regress and they rebel and they never want anything to do with it. And instead, and then they run off and they go away and they don't want to be a part of the family anymore. And what ends up happening with that? It ends up hurting a lot of people in the mix. And really what it is the root cause of the situation wasn't cruelty. It wasn't telling the child that they weren't good enough, or they could never be good enough. It was about their upbringing, what the people wanted them, what they wanted for their child, what they wanted them to be. So the intention is good. The problem is the problem, or not necessarily the problem, but the intention's there. Maybe the execution or deliverance in how that came about might have been the influential effect that profoundly changed the child's mind. So I would highly encourage you to start thinking about some of the standards to which you live. Where did they come from? Why are they created? Are they still important to you? Are they still making a controlling factor in your decision making? And is it necessary for them still to exist? Because some of these concepts, some of these perceptions end up creating us to be a little bit more rigid and stuck in our ways. And it actually prevents us from the growth and development that we so rightfully deserve and so rightfully have been working towards. You have to rid yourself of the things that are no longer serving you or don't work. They worked, they did their purpose. They stayed with you the whole time. They did what they needed to do in your past because you needed them then. But the question, you still need them now. And if you don't need them now, we can let them go. We can say, thank you so much for that, because I really needed that encouragement, or I really needed those boundaries because I wasn't in a as healthy place as I was now. But if you don't need them and they are preventing you from growth, we let them go. And then we can start having new fun things come into our life, new developmental things. Because one of the things we keep forgetting, and change is not a bad thing. Change is actually something that's a constant thing. Our cells are constantly regenerating. They're constantly shifting and moving and making. And when we pay attention to how good change can be, even when change is hard, it can still be for very beneficial influences. Even when you feel like you've hit rock bottom, there is a purification of your soul that happens that allows you to rebirth and regrow, just like the phoenix, which who doesn't want to be a freaking awesome phoenix raising from the fiery flames, right? Okay, so I'm just going to tell you guys right now that it has been a super awesome day talking about this with you. I would love to see different comments, things below, but also I'm very excited to still say that you can still become a Capital Health founder today. You can visit capitalhealth.com. Capital Health app is coming out very soon. And when it comes out, you will not be able to become a Capital Health founder. Okay, Capital Health founders are reserved prior to the app launch. So if you are interested in becoming a Capital Health founder, go visit the website and then check out the videos that explain what becoming a Capital Health founder is and what you get for it. And I would just highly encourage all of you to remember to follow us on the Capital Health, on Facebook, on YouTube. You can reach out to the capitalhealth.com and you can sign up to get our newsletters, in addition to some of our latest blogs, which technically kind of overdue for the May's blog, which I'm going to get off of this, and then I'm going to jump and write that up and have that uploaded for you guys later this evening so that you guys have the new one. And we are actually going to talk about aging on that. So if you want to, if you're feeling some ageism, and it doesn't matter how old you are. You could be 15, you could be 20, you could be 50. Doesn't matter. We're all aging, remember, because change happens, right? Evolving of cells, yes? Okay, so go on and check that out. I do have some really exciting news when it comes to the to the Capital Life podcast, right? So some of you guys have been with me for a while, and you guys know that we love to do an episode of Keeping It Real with real people. And in my Runner Monkeys efforts to keep me nice and organized, we have decided to keep everything nice and themed for the month and kind of plan out what is coming and do a better job letting you, the listeners, know what is to be expected for the next one so that you know what to tune in for, what subjects you'd like to see, even getting feedback from you all. But even better is we are going to find a way to generate where, well, technically they're going to find a way to generate, because I don't do technology. So they're going to find a way to generate to you guys a way to sign up if you'd like to be a guest on an episode of Keeping It Real with Real People on the Capital Life podcast. So once that's out, please put your name below so that in the comment box, and let us know if that is something that is of interest to you, because if it is, once we have our vetting process set up, we will send you a link just asking you your information and making sure that if this is something that you'd like to come on and come talk to my squirreliness, we can have a lot of fun when we have these little podcasts, and the conversation can go anywhere. And I highly encourage that the conversation goes everywhere, because that's what the whole point of this is. So keep in tune for that. Put your comment below if you want to jump on. I want to say thank you for joining me on the Capital Life podcast today, where we talk about all the things. Please join me next Saturday at 5:30 p.m. and we will discuss, I don't even know what we're going to discuss. If you have something you want me to talk about, please add the comment below and we'll put it in there and we'll take your thoughts. Then the other thing that we want to do is make sure that you guys are subscribing. And most importantly, remember that you are to take care of yourself, because you are somebody's everything.